Welcome, everybody, to Astrology Unplugged. I'm Rick DiClemente out of Pittsburgh, and we're going to be talking about Pluto tonight. We've got several people coming in late, and we'll just do what we can to whomever is here. Tonight is a discussion about Pluto because I was thinking about how we wrote so much about Pluto for years, and we sweated it out for years. And we watched it and we warned about its time period from 2008 till 2023, which is 1 year away. So I don't want people to get a misunderstanding that things are going to just end and it's going to be easy. I want them to understand what's really going on. So I'm going to go rewind a little bit back before the time of 2008, I'm sorry. So if you'll take a look at my my different videos, I've got different graphics ready. Okay, it's a good graphic for us to start with. Okay, we're looking at the general zodiac, and in our lifetime, Pluto for me started in Leo, and it's gone all the way in my lifetime. It's up to here. So my whole lifetime has gone from here to just about halfway. Hello, John. Okay, so tonight I'm going to try to bring you up to speed so you'll get a feel for what's happening. Now, when Pluto goes through these signs, it spends anywhere between 13 years and 31 years because of Pluto's elliptical orbit. Okay, and for instance, it's in Sagittarius at its shortest for only 13 years. It's in Gemini for 31 years. Now, this gives a lot of definition to the generations. There's the Pluto and Leo generation. There's the Pluto and Cancer generation, because a lot of those people born during those times have that major imprint from that outer planet. Now, for right now, we're not going to talk about any other planet. Right now, Pluto is here. It's at the very end of Capricorn. It's going to go into Aquarius and stop and come back into Capricorn. And then it's going to stop and go forward, and it's going to start its time with Pluto in Aquarius. This is all going to take place in 2023. So in 2008, Pluto went into Capricorn on January 25th, and I've written a lot about it. It's been in there from 2008 to 2023. But we want to rewind the time back to 1995. And in 1995, Pluto was entering Sag, and it was to spend its time till 2008. Now, when it was in Sag, you will recall Sagittarian type things. It's always going to bring about things that are related and ruled by that sign. Well, you'll recall one of the most prominent things that happened during that whole time was you got bombarded by credit cards in the mail. Mortgage your future, cash in on the future, think forward. These are all very, very Sagittarian things. Don't worry about how we're going to pay for it. Just cash in on getting a new Winnebago, get a couple Winnebagos, whatever you need, get a couple cars. And didn't you wonder during those times? I know I did, but I was watching the planets, but I was wondering how everybody around me was affording all these Winnebagos. How all these people with minor jobs had 2-3 cars. All these people with minor jobs were buying these big houses. Well, you knew something was going to give eventually. And one of the things I want to talk about is interesting. One of my desires, and I probably won't do it, but one of my desires is to talk about this in a book. I want to talk sometime about the cusps, the cusp between Sag and Capricorn, between Capricorn and Aquarius. One of the most important in the zodiac is between Libra and Scorpio. And what happens is the juxtaposition of one sign next to another brings about tremendous amount of stories. There's a tremendous amount of transition that takes place when we go from one sign to the next, whether it's each year and the sun is traversing this cusp, whether it's Pluto and it's traversing there every 256 years, whether it's Jupiter doing it once a year. These cusps are really important. And therefore, it's really important that we understand what happened in 2008 when we all collectively, the whole planet, went from Sag into Capricorn. So when we went into Sag, 1995 to 2008, what did we do? It's always symbolic to notice what happened when you get into the beginning degrees. And what happened in early 1995 was you had people around the block lined up for this thing called windows. And people were, just like Sagittarius, it was opening up our view, widening our view. Click on one view, another view comes up, windows popping up and down. It was very, very Sagittarian. And look at how much the internet and Windows has changed everybody's life on the planet. Enormous. But one thing Sagittarius does, you like it or not, it doesn't worry about the details, and it doesn't worry about who's paying for it. It's not a Sagittarian problem. It's not a Sagittarian problem. It's a Capricorn problem. And that's why in 2008, even before, in 2007, came the crash, the housing crash. The housing crash couldn't even wait till Pluto hit Capricorn, January 25th, 2008. It crashed in 2007. So when Elijah and I met in 2005, we started writing about what's going to happen 2005, 2006. What's going to happen as Pluto traverses into Capricorn 2008. It just so happens, that's where I got confused. It just so happens, I'm going to mention this, but in 2008, as Pluto was crossing this line, you got to remember that around 2005 and 2006, Eris was discovered. And she was discovered over here. She was discovered in Taurus. That's correct. She was discovered in Taurus. I'm not going to say much about her right now. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I'm getting myself confused. Eris was discovered in Aries. Eris just went into Aries in 1921. She's going to be there about 20 more years. She's spending 120 years in the sign of Aries. So she's about right here, right now. So she came about in 2005, 2006, around the same time that Pluto was starting to change into Capricorn. Now remember that Eris is the god of discord. Okay, if you've seen any discord, welcome to the show there. Okay, now I'm not going to get much into Eris tonight because it's just too confusing to get all these things involved. All right. So in 2005 and 2006, as I was writing for this magazine, and I invited Liza to join me, and we wrote some articles that are really good about what we thought it would be like to look ahead and what would it be like when Pluto goes into Capricorn, 2008 to 2023. Well, we knew it would be heavy duty because of the incredible contrast between the heavy duty sign of Capricorn and the lighthearted sign of Sagittarius. So we knew because of that cusp was being crossed. Now, one of the things that surprised me, where we wrote a lot of stuff, and I can access those articles for you if you like. We knew that Pluto, it became to me very clear that there were going to be 4 stages to the Pluto transit. And we're still under one or more of those different 4 stages. And these are my definitions. A lot of astrologers have written similar themes. I think it's largely true. Stage 1, which was around 2008, was symbolic of you're sitting in your chair starts to vibrate. And you say to yourself, well, what's going on there? And you go, it's nothing. You ignore it for a couple of months. And then all of a sudden your chair starts to vibrate again. And you push it aside and say, oh, it's nothing. So stage 1 is denial. And stage 1 should be go down the basement and take a good look down the basement and see what's happening, because maybe it's not denial. Maybe there's something really, really important and scary and threatening that's happening. So we found out as 2008 went into 9, 10, 11, 12, people started like we thought. I couldn't talk about all this talk now you hear about the world ending and we're close to the edge and the climate control and all this death and danger and stuff, warning. You couldn't do that. I know because I wrote about it at that time. 2008, you couldn't talk about it. People didn't want to hear it. 2009, 2010, they didn't want to hear it. Shh, quit being a doomsayer. They didn't want to hear it. Now people are saying it because we are dangling near the edge. Now, we knew that the 4 stages would be coming to us individually, to us collectively, and those are 2 really different things. And they're going on at the same time. Pluto is a universal planet, which means it's affecting all of us universally, collectively, at the same time, whatever it's doing in your chart. And if it's hitting you, you won't feel these 4 stages. So stage 1 is denial. Oh, there's some problems in the basement, but I don't really need to go down there and take a look. Remember, I'm using the basement as a symbolic of the basement of the country, the basement of the world. And what is the basement inside of us other than our inner gut, deeper foundations? Very important stuff. So we noticed as we got on into 9, 10, 11, 12, people started to really pick this up. And it was advanced because we started to see tremendous downfall and tremendous discovery of so much corruption. So much corruption started pouring out. And I don't have to remind you that Trump came on board with his stuff around 05, 06, which is when Eris started her disruption. She's a little bit of a different story. So we started to see in the early 2010s lots of trouble. And some people went on into stage 2, thank God. And still today, a lot of people are still clinging to stage 1. Most of us have moved into stage 2, in my opinion. Stage 2 is, oh shit, we've got to do some work. We've got a lot of work. We've got to get down the basement and fix the rafters before the whole house collapses. That's what stage 2 is. It's ugly, it's dirty, it's loud, it's scary, It's nothing to look forward to. You're hoping that you'll survive. It's like thinking about a mining disaster, whether the beams are going to keep the ceilings up. That's what stage 2. It's very fearful, and you know you got to do it. And Pluto, one of its things is it requires people to dig deep and find courage to deal with it. So stage 2 can be very, very tough. It can last a long time. Some people never get out of it. Some people do move on into stage 3. There's not many of us at all anywhere near stage 4, and there's very few of us even touching stage 3. Most of us are in stage 2. Stage 2 is all this shit's going on, and we got to fix it. And it's just tough, scary stuff. By the way, I am going to go offbeat here for a moment because I've been thinking about this recently. I don't do a lot of predictions, but I am going to make one. I've been thinking about this long and hard. I think we're about this far from having disclosed that the UFOs are real. I'm going on a record saying that because I think that a lot of them are benevolent. I think that there's more than enough proof that they're here. I think they're here to help us. Thank God. Please come. Please help us. So you can make a note, and this is going to be on videotape, so I can't deny that I didn't say it. So stage 2 is a very tough stage. It happens with individuals. You've got cancer. You're going to have to deal with it. Your relationship is cancerous. You're going to have to solve it or break up. You've got problems. Your company's about to go bankrupt. What are you going to do? Stage 2 is tough, facing the facts. And stage 2 has a lot to do, not always, but stage 2 has a lot to do with what happened because you ignored it. Ignored the problem. And I don't have to tell anybody what your health ends up being like when you've ignored your problem for a long time. Sometimes stage 2 is not because you've ignored it. You could have had the best of intention, been hardworking, been very prolific and proactive. And sometimes stage 2 just happens because it just happens because it just happens. And that has to do with the group karma, that has to do with the collective karma, of which nobody can talk about. Nobody can answer that question. We don't know. We just don't know. Stage 3 comes about, I have found with people, especially, I've seen a lot of people go through the 4 stages before we've even gotten halfway through Pluto through Capricorn. Stage 3 is you're starting to see the light because you've been doing the work. You're starting to see, they moved enough coal out of the way. I can see the opening. I can see daylight out there, but it's all definitely because you've worked hard, you're dirty, you're filthy, it's loud, you're tired, you've done the work, cleaning up the junk. That's what Pluto is. Cleaning up the junk. So one of the problems that I've had, and I've watched other astrologers deal with it, and I've dealt tremendously with Pluto for the past 20 years. One of the problems with Pluto is how much can the body take? If the human body, if you imagine the body on the gurney, and the doctors are operating, and the patient has an eruption over here and an eruption over here and an abscess over here and problems over here. Well, the doctors are working as fast and furious as they can to help the patient heal in every way. Well, what happens after a while when there's so much? How much can the patient take? Let alone the fact that Eris is causing tremendous stress, and Neptune is opposite Neptune in the United States chart right now. Major stuff. And the Pluto return has happened in the United States chart. Because while we've been dealing with Pluto going through Capricorn, someone came along and figured out, well, if you look at this chart, that Pluto shows you where Pluto was on July the 4th of 1776. That's where it was, around 28 degrees Capricorn. So not only have we been dealing with Pluto traversing Capricorn, but a year ago, we dealt with Pluto returning to the spot it started from. That's called a Pluto return. That happens every 246 years or so. You've heard of Saturn returns. Pluto returns similar, only thousands of times more intense. So the Pluto return happened in the United States chart about February of 2022. It's still continuing. We're not out of it at all. We're still in the midst of a Pluto return while Pluto's going through Capricorn. And a Pluto return is, I am Pluto, I've invested all this energy in you. I've invested all this power in you as an entity, as individuals, and as a collective. Now, how well have you done with this thing that was born in 1776? This thing that was born, called America, had a mission. You all know the words. I don't have to tell you all the brainwash from grade school. To come across the seas and separate religion from politics and all that, and take the wagon trains across the West and do all the things that we did. Why do you think so much stuff's hitting the fan about repercussions and remuneration to the American Indian and all the different things that we did and didn't do, and all the things that we did to the blacks, and all the things that we did that were untoward to start the country? This is why so much of it's flying up in our face, beside the fact of our laws being uprooted and re-questioning everything. It is a massive, massive identity crisis. Just because Pluto is coming back. Now, if we had spent those 246 years and not abused our power, what Pluto is, and used our energy, these are the things Pluto lives for. Pluto's tough, strong. It wants everybody powerful. It wants everybody helping each other. It wants nobody being chicken, nobody being a coward. It wants you to take ownership for what you've done. And that is not something I think you see real strongly in America's chart. A whole lot of America doesn't take ownership for anything. It's just scary stuff. If we had, in fact, taken our karma more seriously, as the Pluto returned in February 22, then we would be experiencing a lot more joy. We'd be experiencing a lot more rewards. Other countries would be happy with us. We'd be getting along better with other people. We would be discovering all kinds of niceties, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's how the planets work. But when the opposite is happening, when more pus is pouring out, when more discord is pouring out, when you see an American Congress that's just about worthless, when you see a Supreme Court that deserves the word supreme taken off of it, we have a lot of trouble. We have a lot of trouble. Thus, a lot of us are going back to stage one. Oh, it ain't happening. It's a bunch of stuff. It's always been this way. Most of us are being forced to stick with stage two. And it looks to me like a lot of us are going to stay in stage two for a long time. Now, You can make progress with your own stage 3, and stage 4 is unheard of. Stage 4 is you go through it so well, and you've cleaned up your act so well, and you've empowered yourself so well that you get up on the horse and you ride off into the sunset, and your power is here, and you're doing just fine. Very few people make it to stage 4. I'm not saying we can't, but we're certainly stuck in stage 2 with tiny little pictures of stage 3, which is little light at the end of the tunnel, little reward for what we see we have done. So while we're in stage 2, that's what tonight's discussion's about. What do we have to do when we're in stage 2? And this we wrote about in 2005, in 2006, when we wrote about what has to happen. And that article was nothing more than listing all the problems of the country, of the world, of the things that we had to face and repair. And there's nothing. I'm gonna shift the fan situation. Hold on. Okay. So when we look at stage 2, one of the big problems is, how can we deal with so much stuff? We're finding out that a lot of the myths that we built our country upon, look at the plaque on the side of the Statue of Liberty. How long did that last when we start welcoming the poor and all, and we're still talking about thousands of kids that still can't get reunited with their moms and dads in Mexico? And we saw what that happened with that fiasco and the kids being locked up and stuff. So anyhow, are you okay, Susan?
Sorry,
Okay.
yeah, just trying to plug in and recharge.
Okay, all right. So one of the really tough things, if you're talking just about Pluto, not even about the Pluto return, is just all the stuff that's come up that needs to be fixed. And for a doctor, this would be like having a patient that you've kind of put off things as long as you could. But after a while, the patient is not living their life, taking care of themselves, and the doctor has to level with them, saying, these are your options. They're not ready. These are what we got to do. These are your best odds. And you start to work at fixing. Well, what do you do in a Pluto time? And you're starting to see this. There are a lot of really good things happening now because Pluto also brings you your power. Pluto comes and it brings you your power. This is one reason you're seeing these people in the Midwest standing up to the abortion law, okay? It's also because of Eris, very much because of Eris. People are starting to say no. People are starting to say no. Now, one of the problems is the United States has an easy-going chart. It has an easy-going chart. We're full of green grass and wonderful lands and the hillsides and the farms and the resources. I mean, these guys knew what they were doing when they started this country because they put Jupiter next to Venus, next to the sun. Sun, Jupiter, Venus all together when we were born. Think as an accident? They knew where the planets were. They knew what was up. Okay, I'm getting dizzy watching your screen, Susan. I'm really getting dizzy. Okay, now, so when these big planets come with individually and when they come collectively, certain things match. One of the main things that Pluto does when it comes individually is you start to throw out the bums in your life. It's so unbelievably common. Believe me, I'm not trying to con you. I talk to hundreds and hundreds of people that have been through Pluto transits, and I'm telling you what works and what doesn't. One of the main things that works is they start to throw out the bums in their life. people that are using them, people that have abused them, people who have usurped them or lied to them. Doesn't matter if it's real or not. To them, it's real. So I'm not judging the other person. To the initiative, it's happening to them. And one of the best things you can do in astrology when Pluto's on you is get rid of people who are vampiristic. People are sucking from you. They're sucking your energy. They're sucking your money. They're sucking your time. They're sucking your kitchen. They're sucking from you mentally. Those are really Plutonic types of symbols. So once you start to see that, that's really like the patient starting to deal with some of the main problems with the body. You start to see unbelievable success just from that one thing. That's the number one thing I've told you over and over and over with Pluto transits is the number one thing people do successfully is they go down the basement and they throw everything out. And I'm talking literally. They go down the basement and they throw everything out. And I'm talking really the way it happens. Why they do it? Because there comes a time when your inner gut just says, I need sweeping changes. Now, we're all at different stages. Why do they go in the basement? What I hear from them, they get every piece of dirt that was down there, then they hose it out, and then they sweep it again, and there's nothing left. That's very Plutonic. That's a very Scorpionic attitude. Like, for instance, when Picasso, the phenomenal Scorpio painter, when he would go from one period to another, I don't know enough about art, but for instance, when he would go from his yellow period to the blue period, he didn't close the door on the yellow room and go over and open the door on the blue room. He went in and destroyed every damn thing that was yellow. Destroyed it, burned it. That's just a Scorpionic way because it's symbolic of allowing weakness to exist. Something Scorpios can't stand. Remember, Pluto's the ruler of Scorpio. They're a lot alike. So to him, to allow the yellow to be around, the reminder of it was him being in a weaker state. He burns the yellow and he starts into his blue period. It's example. So that's one of the top things you'll see. Now, if you're looking around yourself, your family, your own life, your country, your state, if you're looking around and listening, what are people doing now? They're trying to get a grip on just how bad is education, just how bad is the medical system, just how bad is the Congress. Just how bad is me trying to choose Republican or Democrat? I mean, just think of the issues. There are so many. Now, fortunately, the whole issue is very exponential. So we don't have to go clean up 1 to 1. We clean up 1 to 2 to 4 to 8 to 16 to 32. It's exponential. It starts to grow. And the good vibes start to come back to us. And the pleasant rewards start to come back to us. So there is a lot of hope in that area because we do have a lot of really wonderful, great, smart, innovative, caring people. But unfortunately, we got way too many people that are back in stage 1. And a lot of them in stage 1 are, I'm going to stay at stage 1 because somebody put me there and I'm going to wait till they come fix it. Double work. So we at least need to all haul our butts into stage 2. Get down there in the coal mine where it's dirty, start cleaning the junk out, start throwing the junk out. So when I've watched people go through the 4 stages, after stage 1 and they start to, there's a momentum that's built up when they get to stage 2. They start throwing junk out. Well, I tell people, and you heard me on this show before, you know what you got to clean up. I don't have to tell you. You got a nephew that's at your house every other night bumming all your money, never asks about you. He needs to go. If you've got a neighbor that's always plugging their electricity into you to steal your electricity, they need to get unplugged. It's the whole theory. The theory. You know, when you're with a neighbor or a friend and it's more or less 50-50, how good that feels. You're helping each other. You know, when you got somebody that's not. And in so many cases, when you throw out these bums, they just go find another person to suck off. It's just really true. What was that book called? South American book. Not the Chronicles, I forget what it was. But anyhow, it was a spiritual book. And the number one principle in that book was everybody's here to suck off of the other. Certainly not all of us, but that it was very common. A lot of people are sucking off of other people. And boy, if you haven't watched that, if you haven't become alert to that, it's really mind-blowing how true it is. And there's nothing better than getting your relationships narrowed down to where you have 50-50 going on with the other person. That's just a wonderful exchange. And that's one of the things that we're looking forward to as we get Pluto out of Capricorn and into Aquarius. Because Pluto in Capricorn doesn't speak much about let's work together. Pluto is about let's face it and let's work on the problem. But it's not till we get to Aquarius that we start to get that theme of let's work together. I want to buy the world a Coke and sing in harmony, working together. That's the joy of Aquarius. And we're very lucky that Aquarius is coming next. Now, what's coming to us, I'll do this some other night. What's coming to us next as Pluto goes into Aquarius is not the age of Aquarius. Those are two completely different cycles. We'll talk about that some night. We're near the age of Aquarius. Nobody knows exactly when. It's around now. We're not certain. It's not something you can measure easily. So, as Pluto leaves Capricorn, you're going to start to see some of the buildings remaining upstanding with pillars. Because what Pluto has done is dismantle so many buildings that were being held up by false pillars. Pluto just will not put up with falseness. You ever try to BS a Scorpio? You're not going to do it. You can't do it. So a lot of the things that we see right now, you're starting to see it in the grocery stores, at the gas stations. You're starting to see the collapse of the system all over the place. The collapse of the system in many ways. These rich people have tunneled out their holes in the side of the mountains in New Zealand, and they think they're going to just let us all just suffer the suffering. And they're going to go into their little shelters in the mountains in New Zealand, their billion-dollar homes, and they're going to ride it out. It ain't going to work. We know it. It's not going to work. So you cannot have this discussion and exclude Eris. And that's what most astrologers in the world are still trying to do. You'll notice the last time, several weeks ago, when finally I had Ksenia on from Australia, and she said most of this is happening because of Pluto squaring Eris. And she's exactly right. It's what I've been telling you for years now. She's exactly right. She's one of the few who's starting to open her eyes to Eris and see the combination, because the combination has almost been flat out cruel. Because it's just two difficult planets that are so destructive. And they're both an inch away, because what they are is, if you deserve it, then let it collapse. That's how they think. They're very pure, these planets. And they think about us in terms of what do we really deserve? So I'm not going to go much into Eris because I don't want to scare your pants off tonight, but Eris is pretty scary. So what we need to do is keep going back to Pluto stage 2. In Pluto stage 2, clean up the junk. Well, what do you do when you clean up the junk? Well, you got to clean up your legal system. You got to clean up your voting system. Where do you start? Do I even mention? Do I dare to mention our legal system? Okay, so there you see the problem. The problem's not going away in 2023 when Pluto leaves Capricorn, goes into Aquarius, and backs up and comes back. The problem's going to continue in Capricorn. They're going to continue. So instead of, these are the things that we wrote down in 2005 that were subject to Pluto going through Capricorn. Your institutions, your schools, your banks, anything held up with a pillar, your organizations. And the big thing that happened was that we didn't realize that the Constitution was so weak. And now not only do we need a Constitution 2.0, well, we probably need a whole new shebang. And we didn't know that some worm would come about and look for every possible little stupid legal loophole in the laws. And I told you that in 2018 that the GOP would collapse from moral decay, from spiritual lack, and they did. So what did they have? They had to build their future on this thing floating by, this perverse thing that came to us in 2005 and 2006 that's based on this insanity. He didn't win the election. We know he did, but he didn't. I mean, we don't even know what the hell's real. We're fighting about what's real, what's not real. And we got Neptune opposite Neptune in the USA chart for the next 3 years. And that is a massive spiritual crisis. So the time is right for us to turn things around. The time is right for us to build anew. The time is right for us to stand up. And this is all going to be governed by the women. Because the men aren't going to do it. And the women are already starting to do it. Thank God. What you see them doing in Kansas and in other states. So are we within an inch or two of a civil war? Probably. So here's what I came up with. Here's what the story is about now. Eris is a planet that's really weird. You see, we got 80 new planets in 2005. We got 5 or 6 main ones. And out of the 5 or 6, they really weren't that important except Eris. And Eris is really major. Eris is a planet of discord. She doesn't care what she's got to do. She's going to bring about balance. She's going to bring about fairness. She's going to make the uncounted be counted again. And she doesn't care how violent she has to get to do it. She's not like Pluto. Pluto's not like that. Eris is. This is why you're seeing so much caca on the horizon. It's coming from people subconsciously are accepting this new Eris in their mind without really thinking through what's going on. Now, think about this. There are two sides to Eris. And I'm real glad as I took my week preparing for this. I thought about this. There's a good side to Eris, which means I'm calmly going to tell you and everybody and all your constituents that we're not going to put up with this anymore. We're going to fix things. We're going to make things nice for a new future and good for our children. Then there's a bad side of Eris that says the same thing I just said, but screaming. That's the two sides of Eris. Trump knew about it. He didn't know it's Eris. He is the bad side of Eris. He is incarnate the negative side of Eris. And he has championed it, and he knows how to use it. And that's why he's got people doing double talk. It is, but it isn't. You know? So he's got the part where they're screaming, and this is why you think you're going to get rid of their guns now? Along with, that's why the guns are proliferating. So the other side, I remind you, is a calmer. She's a major god, Eris. She wants to bring about fairness. She wants people to be counted. She doesn't want people to be discounted. She has got a beautiful heart, but she's had it. She's had it. That's the difference with Eris compared to the others. So you're seeing in front of you right now, you're seeing nothing but a huge Eris display everywhere. At the same time that Pluto is still returning in the USA's chart, at the same time that Neptune is opposite Neptune in the United States chart, which is about, are we going to have a real religion and a real spiritual side to us or not? Are we going to keep kidding ourselves? So you see, there's so many myths that are breaking now. There's so many myths that are just being crushed because they're not real. They never were real. They need to be crushed. We don't need to crush people, but we need to crush the myths. And this is why it's so difficult being a Cancer country, because a Cancer country does not want to face reality. I was dealing with a wonderful reading the other day, a really nice long reading with this wonderful Cancer woman. And I was trying to find common lingo. You got to fight till you find common lingo. And I said to her, she was a businesswoman, very professional, very able, capable. And I said to her, one of the problems with Cancer energy, and I mean the Cancer sign itself, deep down in Cancerness, one of the problems with Cancer energy is it is ready, aim, think about what could happen, and sit back down. Ready, aim, think about what might happen, and sit back down. And when I said that to her, she went, ah! She went all over the room saying, oh my God, is that me? And I said, well, you got it from your Cancer mother and whatever. We're not blaming and stuff. But she said, oh my God, is that what I do? I said, why are you going to go forward if you're ready, aim, look what's around you, sit back down, and you're not shooting? And boy, does she start to see. See, that's the magic of what I do. That's the beauty of what I do, to watch these things happen with people. And she was more or less saying, I'm not doing this anymore. And I was lining her up with what you have to do and where you have to find your blockages and all that. And she started to really understand. And she was hell on wheels. She was coming out. Can I work with you again? Can I call you again? Well, sure. Sure, we'll work on it together. Yes. But that's one of the main problems with the United States. We got this ready aim. What's going to happen? Let's sit back down, think about it, let somebody else solve it. That's got to go too. One of the best things we can do, you can write this down. One of the best things we could do is liquidate the entire country and start over with a new birth chart. Because the chart just has, it's just so childish. It's so full of little boy, little girl, don't worry about stuff. Playful. And you know that's not going to happen. So we got to find the stronger parts of the chart and lift up on that. We don't have to, we're not going to be surprised if we find out what other countries are saying about us. Now, what are they saying about us? Americans go abroad and they're embarrassed. Now, when Pluto's around, just like Pluto Eris, when Eris comes into you, Eris brings you power. So what's happening is everybody's starting to feel Eris for the last 13 years, 17 years. Everybody's feeling Eris, but they don't know how to classify it. They don't know how to deal with it. They've not had movies made about it. They don't have books about it. They don't know how to classify it. So what they do feel from Eris is, F it, I'll just do what I want. And that's where you're seeing this ugly side of Eris come out. F it, I'll do what I want. Then you got a leader who's just left the White House who more or less trumpeted that type of philosophy. And you know that's not going to work. And that's not the answer. There is no great big enemy out there that we have to attack. There isn't. We got to get ourselves straight and do some growing up. And if growing up sounds to you like stage 2 Pluto, then I think we have agreement. So what do you have to do to get from stage 2 to stage 3? You just got to keep on cleaning. You got to keep facing the facts. You got to keep on facing your laws, trying to make your laws better, trying to get the handout from underneath the table. The corporate's buying the people. You got to try to get health care to the people so you really can deal with a healthy, sane group of folks. You know, well, one of the big things we've got to get is people start to believe once again that we can do it. Where are you going to look for this hero to follow? This Bernie Sanders to follow? You saw where that one went. Where are you going to find it? Where are you going to find your Gandhi, Mr. John? Where are you going to find your Gandhi? We need a Gandhi. You know, and it's humorous to think that these people paying millions of dollars to have these shelters built into the sides of the rock mountains in New Zealand have been thrown out by the billionaires. The billionaires said, quit working on their tunnel. Give me mine. Throw them out. I mean, it's beyond laughable. So you're left with a couple other alternatives. Are the UFOs here and they're going to really help us? Is that valid? Is that true? Are we going to go over the edge? Is the edge really real? And what I've learned, to my dismay, is that it's very real. So what do we do? Are we going to all get into a Winnebago and tour the United States? Are we all going to retire from the law system and write poetry? Are we all going to do astrology shows and try to explain all this? What are we going to do? Well, that's the promise, and astrology really does work on the word promise. It does. That's the promise of the Aquarian energy that's coming. Because in a year, we're going to start to feel the Pluto going into Aquarius, and we're going to start feeling the strength. Because in Aquarius cares about everybody else. It cares about sharing. It's very idealistic. If you want to understand the difference between a Capricorn and Aquarius, just look at me and look at Liza. I got a lot of Aquarius in me, but I'm a double Capricorn. She's very, very Aquarian. She's out there working for governmental legal systems, trying to get the laws changed, get her name on the ballot. She's out here doing whatever kind of change she can do. But in Aquarius, we're going to start to see when these archetypes start to activate, we start getting thoughts in our mind, and we think it's us. And it's not us. It's the collective working through our mind. And the collective mind is going to start thinking about ways that we can work together. That's the beautiful part of Aquarius. We're going to start working together. Can you not see that everything is paving the way? Exquisite zodiac. Everything is paving the way for the age of Pluto going into Pisces. Because when Pluto goes into Pisces, all you'll be thinking about is giving to the other. That's what Pisces is. I want to just give to the other. Beautiful. But we got those ensuing years, those 15 years of 2023 to 2038 of Pluto going through Aquarius. So in Aquarius, we're going to put a lot more emphasis on science. We're going to put a lot more emphasis on helping the individual grow. Okay. We're going to stop putting emphasis on institutions and put more emphasis on individuals. Put a bigger investment into space race, a lot more investment into exchanging thought systems with other countries. One of the things that happened, I think, is easy to miss. In 1995, that's when we met each other. The Middle East was doing the Middle East stuff. Australia was doing Australia stuff. We're over here doing our stuff. South Americans are doing who knows what. And once the Windows came and the internet came, all of a sudden, we crashed into each other, including all our religions and all our philosophy, which means all the people that are wrong. We crashed into all the other people that are wrong. So it's amazing we even survived this transitory time. So thank God we were in the sign of Capricorn, because it's the toughest sign there is. It's the board that holds it all together. It's the planet with the ring around it. It's always the force that holds it all together. You may not like it. It may not be colorful, but it holds it all together. So in Aquarius, we need to start thinking about working together, grassroots campaigns, starting things from the grass up, returning to honest times, returning to times when we had a handshake. We also have a real tricky thing up our sleeve that we have to deal with. which is called, we got to start returning to the handshake. We've got to start getting away from all this technology. The technology is going to solve it. Now, I'll take your comments and your questions now, but in my opinion, technology is not going to solve all this. It's going to take human efforts, and God bless you, Susan, because the thing I think is one of the greatest things that we're going to have to give us hope is to go around the campfire once again. Get me a log, get out my guitar, let's get around the campfire, let's get some beer, let's tell some stories, let's laugh together. I think that's going to help us. So any comments by anybody now would be welcome. Any comments or questions? In regard to being Discord, interesting that plenty of the young people included both of my adult children use the Discord app every day to talk to their distant friends. Greek goddess Eris, Roman equivalent is Discordia. Yes, as if their generation is comfortable with living with a diverse human race and working out disparate opinions and desires. I think that's exactly right. And I have heard of that. Yes. But keep in mind, you see, this is where the Pluto and Cancer generation, the Cancer country of the United States is running scared, because Cancer doesn't want to hear that I'll bring the discord if I have to, but the discord is here. It's here. And the Cancer Capricorn of the zodiac is running petrified. And it needs to be here. It needs to be here. We don't want anybody getting hurt, but if we got to blow up stuff and we need discord left and right, then bring it on, because we need it. Any comments, John?
I'm thinking of John Kennedy, who said, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. We all think about what our country can do for us, what life can do for us.
Yeah, that's a Cancerian thing. What can mommy do to take care of us?
Yeah.
We badmouth the government as much as possible, but we turn around and want the government to feed us, take care of us. It's not the issue with Aquarius. As we go into Aquarius, we're all going to become more Aquarian-like over the next 20 years. Thank God. Unfortunately, right now, we're all becoming very Arisian. Nobody's explaining to anybody what Eris is, what it isn't. No one's explaining to it how you use it, how it's being abused. The astrologers themselves are afraid to even talk about it or look at it. And Eris is exactly what we need. We need butt-kicking Eris, and she is the energy that's here. The planets always come when they're ready, when the time is ready. Questions, John? Statements?
Yeah, I think one I just can react to everything you've said, which is wonderful. But a thought came to me that what we've done is we've made God irrelevant.
Yeah.
That
Exactly.
And
we made him irrelevant. Exactly. That's the number one thing where we screwed up.
Yeah. We made it. We put him in religion, so we go and think we hear about it at church, and that's it.
The church ain't talking about it.
No, they're not.
No, we need to put him back in his place. We need to put ourselves back in our place of listening and interacting with him, to use the word him, and looking for help, because I can tell you from other groups I'm in, 80% of my clients, when they go wrong, when they're having trouble, I would say 80% are failing because they don't turn things over to God. They don't look to God for guidance. They don't look to Him for show me a new way of doing it. And yes, we're looking at churches, etc., falling apart, and it's good and it's bad. But you're exactly right. God needs to be put back in the proper place in our minds. Because when we see God, we see each other properly. Don't you
Well,
think?
Yeah, all these planets are aspects of God.
Exactly. It's exactly what they are. They're different aspects of God. It's a hard issue to talk about by talking about the archetypes. The archetypes are the hands of God. We don't understand it. We don't know exactly how it works, but we sure as know that we can't fix it. Look what we did to it.
We killed it.
Huh?
We killed it. We
Yeah.
killed it.
Sure. Look what we did with the American Indian, with our guns and with our smallpox. We still got this BS thought that if I go get enough money, maybe I'll get one of those great big shelters in New Zealand and I'll be okay while the rest of you all die of radiation. That's what's going on in Congress. I mean, when you look at the constant bills that this one party constantly votes no to, you can't even believe it. Let's bring about a bill so we can feed our kids. Hell no. Let's bring about a bill so we can get our sick people to the hospital. Hell no.
But in the meantime, I'm feeding my kids. I don't care about your kids.
That's cancer. That's a cancer quality. And we cannot, every sign has its problems. We cannot listen to cancer on that issue. Every sign lies to you. It says, if you listen to me, you'll be okay. And you can't listen to just one sign. They all have to work together. You're exactly right.
This is a divine comedy.
Yes, and that's why we need more of stage one. If you're not dirty enough, let's slap you in the face some more dirt and more lack of breath and more in the tunnel until you're going to at least get up and start working on stage two, which is cleaning up. So we're really in trouble now because in a lot of ways, we need the government to take an action to move aside. And they're not showing signs of moving aside. The eclipse, I did a show on this eclipse. I did it with Ksenia. This eclipse of November 8th is monumental. The planets on election day are unbelievably explosive. It's going to have many different outcomes. It's definitely very symbolic of civil war. How about the people you run into these days and you try to talk common sense to? I mean, I don't think I'm crazy, but I think a lot of people I try to talk to, I can't get anywhere. I'm not going to argue while Fox is making money. We have to dismantle Fox at all the things that are like Fox. Okay, we're going to end it now because it's been heavy duty, but I wanted you to get up to speed tonight on understanding where Pluto is in the scheme of things. The Pluto return is going to continue for a while. Pluto will then get on into Aquarius. The Pluto return will soften somewhat, but we're still dealing with the Pluto return, which is we got to destroy the foundation and build a new foundation. The Statue of Liberty is going like this. We got to put a new foundation under her for her to sit on, because she got to sit there for another 260 years. So we don't have a lot of rebels in this country, except in our imagination with Paul Revere, but we're starting to see them. They're starting to come out. So read about Aquarius. That's the energy we need. Read about Eris. That's the energy we need. Read the book called Discovering Eris. It is the book on Amazon, Discovering Eris. It will explain to you what this planet is like and what it isn't like. And the biggest thing is, I think, you can't be silent. You can't be silent. Dear YouTubers, thank you for joining us tonight. I hope it was edifying. I'll see you next week. We don't know what we're going to do. We'll just see what happens by then. Have a good week, everybody.
Thank you, Rick.
Good night, everybody.